Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. And as always, if you are a recurring viewer or a subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support of my channel. I really appreciate you all being here today. Before I get into the video, I do want to just let you all know that I am slightly under the weather at the moment. I'm coming off the tail end of a head cold, and so if I sound a little stuffed up or a little congested, that is why. So I do hope it's not too distracting. I wanted to say that at the beginning in case my audio does sound weird, if my voice sounds a little scratchy or a little off, not normal. I wanted to let you know why that was. Today I want to do a little bit of a weekend reading update, going over some of the books that I have read last week and what I'm currently reading, as well as showing you a couple of new additions to my library. Also, happy October 1st. I am personally very excited that it is finally October. It's one of my favorite months. It's one of my favorite months for BookTube as well, with Victober going on, a dedicated reading event to everything Victorian literature. So I will talk a little bit more about that later on. I do have one major work picked out that I want to read this month for Victober, and that's also one of the books that I will be hauling for you as well. So I think I will start with what I am currently reading, and we'll go over from there. So I'm still reading Douglas Smith's Former People, The Final Days of the Russian Aristocracy. I talked about this a little bit last week. I was hoping to finish this last week, and that did not happen. I'm a little bit more than halfway through. For some reason, I'm finding this one taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. And I don't think it has to do with the writing style itself. Douglas Smith's writing is fantastic and quite enjoyable. I think for me, what is slowing me down particularly is just the sort of the immensity of the scope. He's covering a lot of different individuals and a fairly large timetable in a very quick way. And so I'm finding that I have to go back and sort of reread things or look things up along the way to try to keep the story flowing, especially when a lot of these individuals within these prominent Russian families had the same name. That can make it a little bit confusing going between individuals, trying to remember each person's individual story and individual sort of identifiers for their lives. So that's been slowing me down a little bit. I'm not sure when I'm going to finish this one. It might be this week, it might be next week, but I'm continuing on with this one sort of in the background along with other works as other books sort of come and go through my reading list. This is one that I sort of pick away at a little bit every day still, and I am still enjoying it, but it's taking me a little bit longer than I thought it would. So I like to sort of, when that happens to me, where I get a book that takes a little bit longer than I thought it would, it's nice to read some other books along the way, sort of to then, when you come back to it, it's a little bit more fresh, and then sometimes that helps, at least for me, helps me speed up in the reading process. So this is still on my currently reading, and then I'm about to start a book today for the next installment of Classics and Company. And if you're not familiar with Classics and Company, it is a year-long reading event that's been going on through all of 2023 that I am co-hosting along with Ann Novella. I will leave a link to Ann's channel down below. If you are not familiar with Ann Novella, please be sure to go over and check out her channel. Give her a subscribe. She does absolutely fantastic content, and she's one of the best channels here on BookTube. So if you do not already follow her, please do. And then I'll also leave a link to the Classics and Company Discord server if you are interested in going out and checking out Classics and Company, checking out what we're reading. For the month of October through the middle of November, we will be reading Wilkie Collins's The Moonstone, and this will be co-hosted along with Ollie from the fantastic channel Criminolly, which I will also link down below. If you have spent any amount of time on BookTube at all in the last 2 years or so, you will be very familiar with Ollie's channel, Criminolly. It has blown up over the last year or so. He is doing fantastic stuff, so I'm sure you are familiar with him, but if not, I will leave a link to his channel down below as well. But we will be reading The Moonstone. So I'm going to be starting this today, and then it goes from October 1st into November 15th, I believe. So we have about a month and a half to read it. I'm super excited. I have not yet read anything by Wilkie Collins. The Moonstone has been on my list for a very long time, so I'm really interested to dive into this one. And I think as I'm reading this one, I might make video installments as I go, depending on how I like it, or I may just save it to talk about on my weekend reading wrap-ups. So that covers what I am currently reading through. And then I want to show a couple of new books that I'm very excited about. The first is The Victorians by A.N. Wilson. And this is going to be my selection for this Victober. So I decided to go with a work of nonfiction about the Victorian period rather than reading a Victorian novel, just because I tend to read a decent amount of Victorian novels throughout the year anyway, but I don't read a whole lot of dedicated Victorian history. I do read a lot about Queen Victoria herself, sort of her personal life. So we do get, some glimpses into the average Victorian period through reading about Queen Victoria, but I wanted something that really focused a broader lens on the Victorian period as a whole. And A.N. Wilson is one of my favorite sort of British English historians. I have a biography of his on Queen Victoria that is excellent. And so I decided to pick this up, and I'm really excited for this. So I'm also going to start this hopefully today, if not today, certainly tomorrow. And this is going to be sort of going throughout the entire month of October. I'm going to take my time with it. It is decently long. It's just over 600 pages, so I won't have to rush my way through it. This should be able to take me through the entire month comfortably. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this and just getting some new perspectives, hopefully, into the Victorian period and into Victorian England. The next book that I picked up is Candice Millard's The River of Doubt, Theodore Roosevelt's Darkest Journey. And I am very excited to read this book, particularly after reading the last Roosevelt biography that I talked about, A Strenuous Life by Kathleen Dalton, I believe was her name. This is one of those episodes from Teddy Roosevelt's life that reads stranger than fiction. This is about his time in, I believe it is in the Amazon, yes, in the Amazon rainforest, where he was basically assigned to track and map an unmapped river system in the Amazon rainforest, and sort of the crazy adventure that came out of that experience. And it's just one of many episodes in Teddy Roosevelt's life that you read it and it truly does seems fictional. It seems like it should be fiction with the things that happened to him. So I'm really excited to read a book dedicated to that crazy story, crazy event in TR's life. So this is also not very long. I think it's just over 300 pages when you cut out the index and the notes at the back. So this isn't going to be a super long read. And also from what I have read about this book, it's supposed to be not super dense, a little bit more sort of narrative nonfiction, quicker to read. So I don't think this is going to take me too long. So I may save this for sort of a weekend vacation read. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be on vacation with a lot more reading time. So I may save this to try to get that sort of read in one sitting kind of feel with this, to really just be able to absorb the story and then talk about it. I have two more books to show, and they both sort of connect together, so I thought I will sort of show them together. They are both by Misha Glenny. The first is The Fall of Yugoslavia, the Third Balkan War, put out by Penguin. And the second is also put out by Penguin, and that is The Balkans, Nationalism, War, and the Great Powers, 1804 to 2011, also by Misha Glenny. So the reason I picked up both of these books is I have started reading a little bit more about the Balkans, and the book that I started with was Balkan Ghosts by David Kaplan, I believe is his name. And I had Balkan Ghosts on my TBR for quite a while. I got the audiobook from my local library and I listened to it. And actually, I made a note on my Goodreads that I was reading Balkan Ghosts, and it got some interest in the comments of people wanting to know what I thought about it, sort of as there are sort of some divisive opinions about the book. And as I was reading it, I decided that I wanted to read a couple of other works as well along with Balkan Ghosts to try to get a better, well-rounded picture of the region and of the region's history. So I did a little research. I found Misha Glenny's books, and I decided to pick both of these up. So obviously, these are both a little bit different. I'm probably going to start with The Fall of Yugoslavia and then move on to this one because it's a little bit heftier. But I love a good hefty history book. But this is sort of a new reading interest new Eastern European reading interests that I have formed just a couple weeks ago, trying to broaden my understanding of the Balkans as a region. I'm thinking of putting together a little video either after I read these or when I start reading these, sort of talking about my opinion on these two books versus the Kaplan Balkan Ghosts. And then there was one other book on the Balkans that I listened to on audiobook. I'm skipping out on the author's name, but the book itself was just called The Balkans: A Short History, and the the audiobook was only about 6 hours, and I think the print book itself is right under 200 pages. So it was very brief, just very much just a glance at the region and the region's history. So I'll also throw that one into the mix, sort of whenever I get my thoughts together. I want to put together a little video sort of talking about some of my thoughts on some of the books that I've read on that subject, and then a little bit of a review of Kaplan's Balkan Ghosts as well, because I have some thoughts on that one. And I think that brings us pretty much up to date on the books that I've hauled, what I'm currently reading, sort of some of my future reading plans moving into October. So I will end it there. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you would like, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now, and happy reading.